Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're launching into one of the most incredible competitions of the 20th century. I'm talking about the epic rivalry that literally pushed humanity from its home here on Earth all the way to the moon.
So, how in the world did a single tiny satellite, we're talking something about the size of a beach ball, kick off a global showdown? Well, it's a story that actually doesn't start in space at all. It starts right here, on a very, very divided Earth. You see, the space race wasn't really born out of this pure love for science and exploration. Nope, it was a direct consequence of the Cold War, that massive rivalry between the United States and the Soviet Union. Space just became the new battleground, the ultimate arena to prove who was better, technologically and ideologically. Winston Churchill once called Russia a riddle wrapped in a mystery inside an enigma. And honestly, that just perfectly nails how the West saw the Soviet Union. Their space program? It was completely hidden, locked down behind this intense wall of secrecy. It was like a space curtain that hid everything, their plans, their tech, and maybe most importantly, their failures. And this secrecy really highlights a huge difference in how the two sides operated. I mean, on one hand, you had the US program, which was this big public show. Astronauts were celebrities, they were national heroes. But on the other hand, in the Soviet Union, where success was everything, the cosmonauts were basically ghosts. You wouldn't even know their names until after they flew a successful mission. It was all a calculated move, right? A way to project this image of perfect, unstoppable Soviet power. And here's the thing. In those early years, that image of unstoppable power felt terrifyingly real. Let's be clear, the race was completely dominated by the Soviets. They delivered one stunning technological blow after another, and it sent this huge wave of panic all across the Western world. Just look at the timeline here. It shows you the absolutely relentless pace of their success. October 57, Sputnik 1, the first satellite. Just a month later, Sputnik 2, the first animal in orbit. And then the big one, April 61, Yuri Gagarin, the first human in space. These weren't just scientific firsts, no way. Each one was a massive propaganda win that really created a profound sense of crisis back in America. You have to imagine it. That simple beep, beep, beep from Sputnik 1 orbiting overhead was a terrifying wake-up call for the United States. It caused this widespread fear because it proved, without a doubt, that the Soviets had rockets powerful enough to launch a nuclear bomb from their continent to America's. Suddenly, the game had completely changed. Okay, so America is humiliated by the Soviet lead, and now they're facing this huge strategic threat. They needed to do something. They needed a goal so big, so audacious, that it would literally leapfrog them from second place to being the undisputed champs. And that's exactly what happened. Just a few weeks after Yuri Gagarin made that historic flight, President John F. Kennedy basically threw down the gauntlet. He stood up and committed the entire nation to this single, absolutely breathtaking goal: putting a man on the moon and bringing him home safely before the decade was out. It was a bold, public declaration to the entire world. And to do that, it took a massive effort. I mean, just look at this number, 400,000. Let that sink in for a second. We're not talking about a small team of geniuses. We're talking about an army of nearly 500,000 scientists, engineers, and technicians. An entire generation of talent from NASA, from private companies, from universities, all laser-focused on this one incredible challenge. But the US didn't just wing it. They didn't just aim for the moon and hope for the best. They built this very methodical, step-by-step plan. First, Project Mercury got the first Americans into space. Then, Project Gemini taught them all the tricky stuff they need for the journey, like docking in orbit and doing spacewalks. Each mission was like a crucial Lego brick, building up to the final push with Apollo. So after years and years of relentless work, some absolutely heartbreaking tragedies like the Apollo 1 fire, and, of course, some incredible breakthroughs, the final stage of the race was finally set. In the summer of 1969, it felt like the entire world was holding its breath. And the drama? It was off the charts, right up to the very last minute. You can't make this stuff up. As Apollo 11 was getting ready to land on the moon, the Soviets had their own unmanned probe, Luna 15, orbiting the moon at the same time. It was this last-ditch, desperate attempt to scoop up some lunar soil and race back to Earth first. But in what was a kind of tragic end to their moonshot hopes, it crashed. And then it happened. On July 20th, 1969, those four famous words crackled through the speakers from Mission Control: "The Eagle has landed." It confirmed what seemed impossible. For the very first time in all of human history, we had landed on another world. And when Neil Armstrong stepped out onto the lunar surface, his words were broadcast to the entire planet. "That's one small step for a man, one giant leap for mankind." That single moment, that one footprint in the dust, it was the symbolic end of the race. The United States had done it. They had answered Kennedy's challenge. And you know what's so incredible? This wasn't just seen as an American victory. It really felt like a moment for all of us, a shared human achievement. An estimated 723 million people. That's more than a fifth of the entire world's population back then. Were all glued to their TVs, watching those fuzzy black and white images coming live from another world. Just incredible. But okay, let's step back. Winning wasn't just about this one mission. We have to remember the Soviets had brilliant engineers and a program that was fiercely determined. So what was the difference? Why did the US ultimately win this thing when the Soviets, well, faltered? Well, a huge part of the answer comes down to the rockets. It's really a tale of two very different machines. You had the American Saturn V, which was the most powerful and reliable rocket ever built. It had a perfect success rate, 100%. Then you had the Soviet moon rocket, the N-1. It was an absolute disaster. Every single one of its 4 test launches failed, and I mean failed spectacularly, like exploding on the launch pad. Without a rocket that could actually get them there, their dream of landing on the moon was pretty much doomed from the start. But it wasn't just about the hardware, right? The American system itself gave them a huge strategic edge. First, they had the economic muscle to pay for this unbelievably expensive program. Second, there was this national push for science and tech education, which created a whole pipeline of brilliant minds. And finally, and this is super important, their system encouraged this amazing collaboration between the government, private industry, and universities. That teamwork just let innovation happen at an incredible pace. And then, in a really surprising final act to this whole story, that intense rivalry, it actually turned into cooperation. In 1975, an American Apollo spacecraft docked with the Soviet Soyuz capsule way up in orbit. The commanders actually shook hands through the hatch. It was this incredible symbol. The bitter Cold War rivals were finally partners in space, and that handshake really paved the way for future projects, like the International Space Station we have today. So that leaves us with the legacy of this incredible saga. The original space race is over, yeah. But today, a brand new one is heating up, not just between countries, but with private companies in the mix too. And as they all set their sights on the moon, on Mars, and even further, it really makes you think, doesn't it? What lessons from that first great duel for the heavens will end up defining who wins the next one?